You're gonna try to sneak in, aren't you?
What? No! No!
We're on the edge of greatness. That opening lyric to the theme song of Netflix's She-Ra and the Princesses of Power perfectly epitomizes everything I felt when watching the entirety of She-Ra for the first time in the summer of 2020. Netflix constantly recommended it to me right after the 5th and final season dropped, practically begging me to watch. Please bro, we swear you'll like this one, we mean it this time. And even though Netflix gets more wrong than they do right, figured I'd give it a shot. Had some off time from work due to the global health crisis, blah blah blah, that whole song and dance, and I ended up binging the entire first season in a day. Not bad, I thought. A little formulaic, animation could be better, but I loved the characters. They absolutely carried this thing. Just thinking about the show made me remember when the first trailer drop hit the internet a few years prior, and there was a lot of discourse surrounding it. Comments like, "Not my She-Ra," and "This is SJW garbage," orbited any mention of She-Ra. And while normally I don't pay any attention to head-ass comments like that, at the time I couldn't help but be intrigued by them. There ain't no way y'all are this gassed up over a kid's show, right? But I'd be lying if I said my memory of that vitriol didn't kickstart my curiosity and encourage my decision to give it a watch. So, was it as bad as they say? The short answer:
absolutely fucking not.
I'm in the middle of the most boring meeting.
Dog, we're being chased through a smuggler's den right now.
You are? That sounds so fun!
I knew next to nothing about the Masters of the Universe, so I had no real connection with the world or characters outside of a few memes, but looking back at it, going in blind was the best thing I possibly could have done. I was able to view the show for what it was and not what my nostalgia was telling me it should have been. I'd been guilty of that before, and I didn't intend on making the same mistake twice. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power follows the story of Adora, a former Horde soldier turned legendary warrior, She-Ra. Being raised in the Horde, Adora comes to realize that she's been fighting for the wrong side and defects to the rebellion, spearheaded by the Princess Alliance. Adora leaves behind her best friend Catra when she refuses to defect, and gets new best friends in the form of teleporting Princess of the Kingdom of Bright Moon Glimmer and the abtacular archer Bo. Because of the rift formed between Adora and Catra, the two spend the next few seasons in a bitter rivalry, with Catra trying to prove herself useful to the Horde without Adora, and Adora doing her best to live up to the expectations of She-Ra by bringing together the Princess Alliance, defeating the Horde, and saving Bright Moon. As the show goes on, Adora learns not only more about her own past, but also the history of the previous She-Ra, Mara. Understanding what exactly happened to Mara seems to be the key to Adora figuring out what exactly her role is as She-Ra on the planet Etheria. At the same time, Catra catches the eye of the Horde's leader, Hordak, getting sent on missions to undermine Adora and the Princess Alliance. Though rising in the Horde's ranks, she falls further and further into darkness, getting more and more brutal in her methods until eventually supplanting Hordak as the Horde's figurehead.
I know it's just cut up pieces of paper, but gosh, isn't it so much fun?
Fantastical elements aside, the main draw to She-Ra, for me at least, are the multiple parallel narratives between Adora and the other characters. The most obvious being the aforementioned parallel between Adora's ascent to heroism and Catra's descent into villainy. The parallel that reverberates the most between the characters throughout the series is the failure to meet expectations and the pressure that puts on someone. Adora is initially told by First One's AI, Light Hope, that the last She-Ra was a failure, and as a result develops a savior complex because she feels like she has to be better than her predecessor. She doesn't want to be seen as a failure too. Catra's entire motivation is that she doesn't want to be considered second to Adora by the likes of their mother figure, Shadow Weaver, like she has her entire life, fails again and again to best her. Being the leader of the Princess Alliance, Glimmer doesn't think she measures up to Adora and feels a tinge of jealousy. And then again, when she eventually becomes the Queen of Bright Moon, she feels as if she's not measuring up to the legacy of her mother, Queen Angela. Even Hordak, who's revealed to be a cast-out clone of a space conqueror known as Horde Prime, sees himself as a defect, a reject, and undesirable in the eyes of his progenitor. It's the fundamental reason he's so desperate to conquer Etheria. He wants to prove himself to Prime. He wants to prove he belongs. He wants to prove that he's worthy. Just as every other character I mentioned is in the pursuit of worth. And then there's Mara. She's maybe my favorite character in the show because she embodies its entire point. As opposed to the other characters who buckle under the weight of expectations, Mara ultimately subverts what's expected of her. What's expected of She-Ra. After it's revealed that She-Ra is a conduit to be used for a magical super weapon built by the first ones, Mara rejects her purpose, as the price for using this weapon is way too high to pay. She chooses to do the right thing regardless of pressure from outside forces simply because it's the right thing. The other characters learn this along their various journeys, but Mara was the first to show us that we can choose who we want to be.
Just let all your cares go. You're safe. You're safe here.
Stop it! Stop!
Shh. You're
Go
safe
of me!
here,
Are
okay?
you crazy?
There's nothing we can't handle.
With full confidence, I can definitely say that She-Ra is a kid's show that past season 1 never feels like a kid's show. There's only a handful of American cartoons I can honestly say that about. It manages to tackle tough subject matter like grief, betrayal, and forgiveness like a seasoned linebacker without sounding too preachy, and that's a rarity nowadays. The show I see She-Ra juxtaposed the most with is Avatar: The Last Airbender. From the in-depth lore to the fantastic setting to the war-driven plot, it's obvious to see why, but the biggest comparison comes from how amazingly well the characters are written. I previously mentioned parallel character arcs in She-Ra. Well, I can't help but feel like they got a little inspiration from The Last Airbender, who took the concept of paralleling arcs and mastered it with Aang and Zuko. And I know people are gonna feel some type of way about me saying this, but Catra's redemption arc is on par with Zuko's.
Boo!
Now, before y'all go and cancel me, just hear me out. I understand that Zuko is a legendary character in a legendary show, so I don't make that comparison lightly. Both these characters' respective journeys start in less than ideal circumstances, with Zuko being recently banished from the Fire Nation and sent on an impossible mission to reclaim his honor, and Catra just having lost the one person who's ever meant anything to her, has to claw her way up from nothing to the top of the Horde. They each spend the first part of their arcs trying to capture or undermine the plans of each show's protagonist. Continuing to make bad decisions in pursuit of their goals, the inner conscious on their sides are personified in Zuko's uncle Iroh and Catra's henchman / tentative friend Scorpia. Throughout their trials, they each seem to hit a point of no return. After struggling with who he is as a person while in the Earth Kingdom, Zuko betrays Iroh and joins Azula in attacking Aang and Katara, resulting in what seems to be the Avatar's death. Ignoring pleas from Adora, Catra opens a portal to let the Horde Armada come to Etheria, and consequentially, Queen Angela ends up being trapped between dimensions, effectively dying to save Etheria. Each of them had an opportunity to do the right thing, but rather than doing it, they caved under the weight of what was expected of them. Zuko with Azula, and Catra with pretty much everyone but Adora. Catra's choice in that moment creates an even bigger rift in her relationship with Adora. Despite that, Adora never truly gives up on Catra the same way Aang never truly gives up on Zuko. Even with all the history between them and all those attempted murders, they're not too far gone. They can still make a change. Zuko realizes that he's made a mistake and chooses to make things right. He embraces his destiny, becomes Aang's firebending teacher, makes up for his past transgressions with Team Avatar, and ultimately helps restore balance to the four nations. After Catra and Glimmer are captured by Horde Prime, Catra comes to recognize that she, like Glimmer, is alone. Each of them spent the previous season pushing away the people closest to them, and all they have left on a ship full of Horde clones is each other. Coming to the same realization as Zuko, Catra sacrifices herself to give Glimmer a chance to escape, leaving Adora distraught. After rescuing her from Prime, Adora lets Catra know that she never hated her, even after all the things she'd done, rekindling the spark of their friendship. After joining the Best Friend Squad, Catra proves herself to be crucial to the rebellion in the fight to stop Horde Prime. In the end, it was the connection between Catra and Adora that proves to be his undoing. Their love for each other was something that he could never account for, and it saves the universe.
Princesses are easy to take down. You and your files don't have anything on real threats, like me.
As I stated earlier, I started watching this show in the summer of 2020. If you remember, and I'm sure you do, that was right around the time the George Floyd protests kicked off. As a black man in America, this was a very painful and emotional time for me, and whenever I was done doom scrolling on Twitter, I found solace in She-Ra. It was my comfort food, my brief sabbatical from the horror show known as reality, so getting lost in this magical world wasn't difficult in the slightest. But sooner or later, I had to go back to a world of prejudice where you could be judged and even killed based on what you look like. Something that I admire about She-Ra, in spite of any discourse, is that it includes characters of different races, sexual orientations, genders, or lack thereof, and body types without drawing any attention to those characteristics. These aren't some standout traits on Etheria, they're just allowed to be. Not quite sure why including those types of characters who exist IRL is considered quote-unquote PC or woke, but honestly it's something that I wish more media had the balls to implement. My point being, whatever you look like, whatever your identity, wherever you're from, has no bearing on who you choose to be as a person. It doesn't matter what other people expect of you. Blaze your own trail. The thematically relevant lesson ubiquitous throughout She-Ra's entire run is that you and you alone get to decide who you want to be. And if some asshole tries to take that decision away from you, you have to fight for it. For pride, for each other,
For the honor of Grayskull!